Welcome back to Rocky Watches Movies. Today we're looking into the streets of 1980s Miami to uncover some fascinating facts about one of television's most iconic crime dramas, Miami Vice. This 1984 series transformed the way TV shows were made and viewed, blending fast-paced action with a unique visual and musical style. But behind the glitz, glamour and guns, there's a trove of behind-the-scenes stories and trivia that fans may not know. So take off your socks, put on your Ray-Bans and let's speed through 20 things you never knew about Miami Vice. Though Don Johnson is now synonymous with Sonny Crockett, NBC was initially against casting him in the lead role. Johnson had earned the unfortunate nickname Pilot Poison after starring in 5 TV pilots for NBC executive Brandon Tartikoff, none of which were picked up. Before Johnson landed the part, producers considered several big-name actors for the role. Both Nick Nolte and Jeff Bridges were approached but turned it down, preferring to focus on their film careers. Gary Cole, who later guest starred as a smuggler in the episode Trust Fund Pirates, also auditioned for the role. Ultimately, the final decision came down to Don Johnson and Chips star Larry Wilcox. Though Wilcox came close, Johnson edged him out at the last minute. Miami Vice became a magnet for high-profile guests, many of whom were just beginning their acting careers. The list of familiar faces is staggering. Lawrence Fishburne, Bruce Willis, Benicio del Toro, Chris Rock, Liam Neeson, Julia Roberts, and Steve Buscemi, just to name a few. The show also featured recurring roles for stars like Pam Grier, who had a 3-episode arc, and Sheena Easton, who played Sonny Crockett's second wife. I think it might be harder to find someone who hasn't been on the show. One of the show's most iconic elements is Crockett's Ferrari, but during the first 2 seasons, the Ferrari 365 GTS was actually a replica built on the chassis of a Chevrolet Corvette. Specialty car manufacturer Tom McBurney of McBurney Coachcraft created the lookalike, but the deception didn't last long. Ferrari sued the producers for trademark infringement, and by the 3rd season, they struck a deal. Ferrari donated 2 brand new Testarossas to the production. These sleek white cars became part of the show's iconic image, and the lawsuit was dropped. The show wasn't just revolutionary, it was also expensive. With a price tag of about $1.3 million per episode, it became one of the costliest TV shows of the 80s. The hefty budget stemmed from shooting on location in Miami, as well as the extensive use of licensed music. Each episode's music rights alone reportedly cost $10,000. While that might not sound like much today, it was a considerable amount back in the 80s. By the end of Season 2, Johnson's contract was up for renewal, and he was considering leaving the show. When filming resumed without him, the network even lined up NCIS star Mark Harmon to take over as Sonny Crockett. However, a last-minute deal was struck, and Johnson returned with a substantial pay rise, making him one of the highest-paid actors of the time. The instantly recognisable Miami Vice theme, composed by Jan Hammer, became a major hit in its own right. Not only did it become one of the most iconic TV themes ever, but it also topped the Billboard Top 100 in 1985. It also put the soundtrack on the top of the US album chart for 11 weeks, making it the most successful TV soundtrack of all time until 2006's High School Musical. If you're enjoying the video, a subscribe to the channel would be cooler than a fake Ferrari. Miami Vice wasn't just a visual revolution, it also changed the way TV shows used music. The show featured popular music in nearly every episode, allowing artists like the Rolling Stones, U2, and Phil Collins to reach new audiences. This innovative use of contemporary music helped make Miami Vice stand out, with record companies eager to have their songs featured, knowing it could lead to a boost in sales. Crockett's 5 o'clock shadow became a defining characteristic of the show, but there was a narrative reason for it. The idea that Crockett, living undercover and constantly rubbing elbows with drug dealers, didn't have time to shave. His stubbled appearance reflected the gritty, sleepless life of a Miami cop infiltrating the city's underworld. To maintain the 5 o'clock shadow, Johnson used a sideburn trimmer. Fans of the show and its facial hair had an even more appropriate option though, the Miami device, which was named for the series, until its manufacturer worried that they might be sued and changed it to the stubble device. In either case, no one was buying it and the trimmer was quickly discontinued. Ray-Ban's Wayfarer sunglasses had been falling out of fashion. Tom Cruise helped them a bit after sporting them in risky business. But when Don Johnson started wearing them, Wayfarer sales soared from just 360,000 pairs in 1983 to 1.5 million by 1986, all thanks to Johnson's constant sporting of the iconic shades. In Season 3, Melanie Griffith appeared as Christine Marburg in the episode By Hook or By Crook. Interestingly, Christine Marburg was the name of Miami Vice writer Dick Wolf's wife at the time. Given that Griffith's character was a madam running a prostitution ring, this name was a little strange if it was meant as a nod of affection. In its first 2 seasons, Miami Vice enjoyed high ratings in a primetime 10 p.m. slot, but when the show was moved to the 9 p.m. Friday time slot for its 3rd season, it found itself going up against the ratings juggernaut Dallas. The ratings took a hit and Miami Vice began to decline in popularity. By 1987, Newsweek ran a cover story titled Dallas Drubs the Cops, cementing the show's fall from the top of the ratings pile. Sonny Crockett didn't just solve crimes, he also sparked a major fashion trend. The character's laid-back but stylish look, often consisting of a pastel t-shirt paired with a white jacket, became a signature style for the 1980s. Crockett's rolled-up sleeves and no-socks look made him the poster boy for a new kind of casual chic. There's long been a debate over who first coined the phrase MTV Cops for Miami Vice. Some credit NBC executive Brandon Tartikoff, who supposedly jotted it down as a shorthand concept for a flashy, visually driven cop show. However, creator Anthony Yerkovich had been shaping the idea for years before it hit the screen. Yerkovich saw Miami as a chaotic hub of crime, likening it to a modern-day Casablanca with its melting pot of cultures, refugees, and the booming drug trade. Its stylish visuals, energetic music, and quick pacing appealed to younger audiences, marking a shift to how TV dramas were made and consumed. Director Lee Katzin even said, "The show is written for an MTV audience, which is more interested in images, emotions, and energy than plot, characters, and words." After Miami Vice ended, Philip Michael Thomas took an unexpected career turn. He became the spokesperson for the Psychic Readers Network. Thomas promoted his own hotline, the Philip Michael Thomas International Psychic Network, where he and other psychics promised to help callers live their best lives. Unfortunately, the venture didn't end well. Thomas sued the company for violating his contract, winning $2.3 million in damages in 2002. By then, the company had already brought in the infamous Miss Cleo to replace him. And staying with Philip Michael Thomas, he was always looking toward the future. He wore a necklace with the letters EGOT, which many assumed stood for Emmy, Grammy, Oscar and Tony, the 4 biggest entertainment awards. Thomas had big dreams of claiming all 4 accolades, although he later stated that the letters stood for energy, growth, opportunity and talent. While he hasn't won any of the awards so far, Thomas did receive a Golden Globe nomination for his work on Miami Vice. Before Don Johnson immortalised the role of Sonny Crockett, the name actually appeared on Hill Street Blues, which creator Anthony Yerkovich was a writer for. In that series, Sonny Crockett was a very different character, a racist biker, played by actor Dennis Berkeley. This took place in 1983, just 1 year before Miami Vice debuted. The bold hues of Miami's Art Deco architecture were mirrored in the show's wardrobe and set designs. This distinctive aesthetic was inspired by executive producer Michael Mann, who based the idea on a trip to Miami Beach and some colour chips he picked up at a paint store. Mann noted that using 3 main colours would create a chromatic story that heightened the mood and tone of the series. When the show first hit the airwaves, Miami wasn't the glamorous tourist destination it is today. In fact, the city was known for its high crime rate, earning the nickname Murder Capital of America in the early 80s. But as the series grew in popularity, it changed the city's image. Tourists, many of them from Europe, flocked to Miami, curious to see the backdrop of their favourite show. The revitalisation of areas like South Beach was largely attributed to the show's success, a phenomenon that came to be known as the Vice effect. According to Don Johnson, the production team even painted building facades along Collins and Ocean Avenue to match the show's colour palette, giving Miami a facelift of its own. Miami Vice's influence didn't end with its TV run, of course. In 2006, Michael Mann, who had been instrumental in the success of the series, brought the show to the big screen with a film adaptation starring Colin Farrell and Jamie Foxx as Crockett and Tubbs. It has a below 50% rating from both critics and audiences on Rotten Tomatoes, which doesn't do the film justice in my opinion. And there you have it, folks. You now know a little bit more about Miami Vice. If you enjoyed the video, which I presume you did as you got this far, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos coming to Rocky Watches Movies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.